Hey guys, Lex the Gray here. It's been a minute since I made a in-person video, but I wanted this to be a relaxed one where we're going to go through my small collection, very small collection of Rules-Lite tabletop RPGs and just RPGs. Now, they are not going to be in any certain order, like my favorites. I'm not going to do like a full review of each one because that'll take an hour plus. But I'm not sure how long this will go for, but I'll try to go through each one, just kind of share my experiences with each RPG, how much exposure I've had with each one, and what my general thoughts are. But again, they are kind of grouped up because some are in the same franchise, same creators. But again, this is a small, minuscule collection compared to people who have played RPGs for years and years. I am slowly growing my collection when I can find physical copies of RPGs I like in the immediate area I live. So let's start. Now let's first off start with my small collection of Savage Worlds. So this is Savage Worlds Explorers Edition. I know that there's definitely a handful of versions of Savage Worlds. It has that unique um, dice system where the attributes are tied to a certain die type, and you can upgrade it to D4, D6, D8, D10, so on. And then it has the I think wild die and explodes. Basically, you roll D6, and if it explodes, you can keep going and going and going. But I know the general basics of Savage Worlds, but I never actually have played Savage Worlds in full. I've just seen a lot of Let's Plays and tutorials on how to play Savage Worlds, but I do like collecting the books of Savage Worlds. I like the concept that these are genre neutral. They are or system. How do you say? I believe just genre neutral. They can be adapted into any um, genre setting. So Wild West, sci-fi, fantasy, cyberpunk, etc. They have a very unique um, demographic, and I think it's definitely has its own following, and it appears to be. Um, I think it's actually a favorite of one of these. I believe it's a favorite of the big YouTuber who does solo RPGs, Trevor Duvall, with Me, Myself, and Die. He's a big fan of Savage Worlds, and a lot of his content he has played Savage Worlds. I think he uses this one. I believe it's this one. I could be mistaken, but this is Savage Worlds Deluxe Explorers Edition. So this was actually the first one I found out in the wild um, of my small. I think I have four total books, but these all these books are actually I forgot one. I'm sorry. I just realized it. I found the bigger version of uh, Savage Worlds Deluxe that is not Explorers Edition. It's a little confusing. Again, I'm quite new to the Savage Worlds IP, but I think I'm not sure which is newer or which is older. But again, these are very intriguing RPGs, and they definitely stand out amongst my collection. So again, this is the biggest book version I have of Savage Worlds, but I believe I was just trying to limit my collection to the smaller books, so that's probably why I ignored that one. But I have it. So then there is, I believe this is the current one, Suede. This is the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, so it has some updated believe it has some updated mechanics and rules and some refining of the text and the theme and the images inside. So definitely this is a hard copy compared to my other two here, and the bigger deluxe book is a hard copy. So definitely it looks like they've made some improvements on the visuals and possibly the rules. But yeah, this is Savage Worlds, my small Savage Worlds collection of about four books. So next, let's move on to a game that I have not bothered to try yet, but I've heard a lot of love and hate, and that's Fate. I don't know, well, I can assume because of the Fate dice, because of negative, positive. Maybe that's why it's love or hated. I'm not trying to pick a side here, but I haven't played it thoroughly to see how good it is or how fun it is, if it's more narrative driven compared to heavy mechanics. But I can see it's definitely a very well designed book. This is the hard copy version, the core. This is Fate core system. This is Fate accelerated, more compact, I'm guessing. But yeah, I've not gone through these thoroughly to really give you a full opinion about them. But I heard a lot about Fate. I'm like, we'll give it a try. I do own a handful of Fate dice. So if I were ever to you know, invest some time in learning Fate in general, no matter the edition I choose to go with, it might be intriguing. If it's narrative driven, then I seem to be in those moods where I'm like, I'm going to try a simple rules light RPG that's narrative driven compared to mechanical or sim heavy, sim light, whatever you want to call it. If I'm using that term correctly, then Fate might be worth it. But I come across a lot of RPG players like at the stores I go to, used or new, where they're not such big fans of Fate. But then I see the occasional support of Fate online. I don't know. It could be my exposure. Anyways, this is the only book of the Iron Sword line I have, and that's Starforge. I've talked about Starforge, I believe, before, and it's still something I have not gone through it thoroughly. It is probably the most rules heavy out of my little collection here. It's healthy, it's huge in content. There's so much for solo play. That's why I bought it. And Iron Sword, it's just the I really want to get the Iron Sword fantasy version of this line. The Starforge was intriguing. I bought this quite some time ago, and I still want to go through it and try it out either on camera or off camera. But I do love the fact that it can do co-op, solo, guided. It's great, and it tells you in the back too, so you can do all those certain types of plays. So that's Starforge. Again, even all the tables and the oracles are tied with the solo mechanic in the game. So I don't know if you can actually just use it for that. You actually have to play the game with the solo mechanic engine. This one was random that I found, quite random. It's called Maximum Apocalypse. I don't know much about the company or the creators of this game in general, but it is a post-apocalyptic game, and it's a D100 game, I believe. It's based on skill rank and 25 and up as far as your skills. It's very intriguing. The graphics are the designs are black and white, and it's definitely kind of, I'm guessing, gonna be fantasy mixed art with Fallout, perhaps. I got just kind of skimmed through it when I bought this. I'm like, oh, it's D100. Want to get more exposure to that type of engine. So definitely Wild West post-apocalyptic. Maybe not the fantasy element, but I do see creatures in the picture here. But that's part of my little collection. Moving on, I have got this recently called Nightcrawlers. It's like a splatterpunk role-playing game. Definitely, against the system, against the populist, rebellious kind of attitude. Very colorful game, kind of for the whole crowd. Um, it's really off the wall. It's fun. I've actually read through the mechanics. You got a few attributes. You have a bunch of tables in here. That's why I picked it up. There's definitely a lot of tables. It has a great little city map in the front there. And you play creatures. You play demons, vampires, the dead. You play the monsters compared to playing a human character or just a subhuman. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting take on like a maybe, I don't know, modern day or not too distant future setting, but it's an interesting little take at playing a suppressed race of creatures that are fighting back and against the system. That's basically what that is. So I read through that, and I probably will play that with a few friends of mine coming soon. So next should be familiar. A lot of these are going to be super familiar compared to um, the last two Nightcrawlers and Apocalypse, the Maximum Apocalypse. Karen, I've said this before. Karen is one of my favorite systems of all time. And the past year, I'm acting like I've been playing for 20 years. But this is my favorite so far. One of my favorites. It's always, bouncing back and forth between this and the next one. Karen is a fantastic system. It's so damn easy to learn. You have three attributes: strength, dexterity, and will. You have limited amount of space for items. I love the spell system. It's so damn simple. A spell book is the entire spell. It can disappear after use, or you can keep. It depends on depends on a house rule it. Love the character sheet design. I love the design inside. There's a good amount of items. There's a good amount of background. Physical appearance of your character, your mannerisms, your vice, your virtue, your your appearance, your if you're bald, your skin color, all that stuff. So it's a great book. And on top of that, I have ordered the second edition of Cairn. There's actually a new version. You can find it on the website for free, I believe, and you can order a paperback copy from, I believe, the website also. I don't recall if I bought it. I think I got it through Drive Through RPG. the same type of copy like this. It's gonna be a little thicker, but I really enjoy Karen. And here's the thing I want to mention. As I always continue to try to improve and make my own little one-page RPG on the side for heavens, how long I've been working on it, Solitary Chronicles. Um, I'm always bouncing back and forth trying to decide if I should stick with a, roll attack roll and then roll damage if you hit, or just straight up roll for damage and subtract armor. That's what I love about Karen. I've grown to like that preferably more compared to all the other systems that use attack roll. If you miss, too bad, so sad. They can attack you, damage. GURPS has that little interesting thing where you can defend yourself. You can roll. You roll for defense if you're attacked. When you attack your enemy, they have a chance to dodge. It's a mix of both, but I do prefer the straight damage method, and it can make the game a lot shorter. But because when I try to do these solo videos, I try to give my characters an edge or character if it's a solo character, a lone wolf. Um, more HP in the beginning, just to give them an edge, because Karen is brutal and it is not forgiving. It's unforgiving. So just FYI if you ever try Karen out. But again, it's entirely free on PDF on the website, Karen RPG, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. But that's been my favorite so far on and off the field. Next is my other favorite, which again, these two always compete. Karen, Maze Rats. Maze Rats is made by Ben Milton. This is I don't know if it was his first RPG he made, but it's definitely notable in the solo community. It's a great 2d6 engine. There's a wealth of tables in it, a lot more than Karen, respectively, of course. But there is a bunch of tables, and I love the magic generation system in Maze Rats. It's an extremely simple engine, much like Karen, 2d6 compared to Karen's d20. Um, and making the character takes you probably a couple minutes. It's a great way to just generate some off the wall characters. It's strictly a 2d6, so there's a very limited window of advancement, but there is a way to advance your character up to like level, I think 7 or 9, I believe. Let me just double check here. 7. So of course you can house roll it to make more, but yeah, it's good probably for a one shot or two, or for at least a few sessions. And this is the entire rules right here on how to make the character. That's the character creation page, this half here. And then the actual rules is this. It's literally a one-page RPG minus all the wealthy tables of content, or content of tables, I should say. City, wilderness, treasure, monster creator, all that stuff, magic. I like to use this a lot for magic sometimes on top of Karen, even combine them. Next is the same creator, Ben Milton, with Knave Second Edition. So, Knave Second Edition is his D20 traditional OSR type of game. And it's saying that it's basically a mix of that and Maze Rats. It has a bunch of tables, even more, respectively, even more tables. And I question why I don't play this game enough, but it's because I have a strange, not hatred, but I don't know, annoyance with D20 at times. It's not a, it's weird. It's like I first D&D, I learned D&D 5e. That's the first RPG I played. And then I discovered all the other systems, 2d6, the D100 games, 3d6, like GURPS, and I've grown to love those ones more than D20. But again, that doesn't take away from Knave's quality. There are a slew of tables for everything, everything, and it's fantastic. Um, he's a great writer. He really chooses the best font possible, has a great assortment of pictures from talented artists, and again, the character creation page is literally this one page here. Obviously, you have to scroll to choose weapons and such, but that is literally the page of creation. So if you prefer the OSR traditional approach to D&D, I'm sorry, to RPGs, then the Knave will probably be preferred compared to Maze Rats. But I love that he has both of these choices available from his store. So if you prefer a slightly lighter rules, Maze Rats can go for you, or Knave just wanted that more traditional OSR approach, that might be also a good choice. And the items, your inventory does have an effect on your health, on your stamina. So take that into account. All right, that's the only two I have from Ben Milton. Next is White Box that I was using for the short-lived Shadowspire Guild. Using White Box doesn't mean the series is over, but I've had some issues behind the scenes. White Box um, is I believe it's a retro clone of the original White Box D&D. Again, I'm still learning the history of D&D. It's an ongoing process for me, but it is a D20 game. It has all the OSR feels to it. It's a fantastic engine. It has a lot. The modifiers are a little more limited compared to the other ability scores in traditional D&D, as far as minus or plus one. But it has the usual classes. It has a bunch of tables. It has attack rolls. So you roll on its descending AC, but it also has the ascending AC conversion for you. So whichever you prefer, White Box is a great choice if you want to play traditional descending AC with attack rolls with Echo style, or you can stick with the usual current modern day ascending AC at or above. So that's White Box. White Box has a pretty big following actually when I looked into it. And I think there's another version of this book. There's a black and white copy, which seems to be the more popular choice compared to this one with the dragon and that little small team of heroes right there. Next is a very unique, very rules-light RPG. It's a D20 system. Character creation is literally within a few moments into the odd. I've used Into the Odd a couple times, not a lot, but it's definitely a very unique extravagant, elegant design. That this hardcover book is professional. It feels like a novel, almost. Like the book itself feels like it's just from an author it's telling a story, but it's literally an RPG game. And the pictures are the cover is great. The designs are it's very consistent theme. The color palette and character creation is so quick, and it has that same you roll for damage. There's no attack rolls. It's very similar. It's extremely similar to Karen, but the arcane in this is quite unique also, and it has a list of spells. This is a mix of like modern fantasy. I want to say I could be mistaken, but um, I love games like these where they're light on rules enough, but you can still have some level of dice rolling and deadly combat. So it doesn't don't let the cover deceive you. It's not a novel. It's an actual RPG. So that's another great book. Now let's get into the Borg series. So I have a few Borg books. These not my entire collection, but these are the small part of the Borg collection, the actual physically small books. This is Morkborg. This is the first Borg book I learned about, but not owned. This one took me a while to get. They're finally printing and distributing them amongst the stores where I shop at in my area. So it feels like the manufacturer has stepped up their game or has stepped up production because Morkborg is very popular. Um, it's not necessarily a love or hate for me, but I've had some issues with playing Morkborg before, like the engine, the style of Morkborg. But that's because I just have to, you know, kind of have a little more patience with it. Not the style that bothers me. It's I don't again, it's the whole D20 thing. I don't know why D20 bothers me at times, but I don't want to take away from the fact that Morkborg is a fantastic game. Very rules light. It takes moments to create your character. Has a bunch of tables. That's why I got it. It's because of the tables, and also to be honest, the design very gritty. It's like I don't understand like metal, death metal kind of feel to it. Character designs are gritty, scary, horror, disgusting, disturbing, and just fantastic. If you love that style, then Morkborg is for you. Again, there's plenty of tables, and there's the great thing about these board games. There's so many expansions too, and that's what's fascinating about it. This has a very large cult following, and that's extremely admirable. So I highly recommend the Morkborg if you are interested in a D20 simple rules game. So that's Morkborg. Now, what interests me more about the other board games is their adaptability, and that's different genres. Pyreborg. Pyreborg is the first board game I had my hands on when I bought. And again, it's another wealthy a collection of tables and actually a slightly bigger book collectively, probably double the size. There are more tables. There's sea battles. There's pirate ships. There's more designs are more consistent. I don't know. It's hard to say that they are very, very, I want to say gothic design, but pirate themed. So the pages are. endless. There's so many tables, and again, the same rules. Um, but the IP, it's compatible with Morkborg. That's also great. But you can also play it on its own. So Pyroborg is another great game I recommend. And I've actually played this one off camera some time ago when I bought it. Next is my least, not least favorite, my one board game Cyborg that I have my least attention on, my least knowledge of. Cyborg is basically Cyberpunk's version of their Cyberpunk take. Same thing, great pictures, everything's like extravagant, out of the off the wall, but same engine still has a bunch of tables. So that's Cyborg. If you ever want to try Morkborg with Cyberpunk. All right, I have two more to go. This is my last Borg related game. It's not titled Borg, but I believe it's from the same creators. At least there's some similarity, there's some connection between the Borg games, and that's Death in Space. Same similar engine, but with some modifications because it's in space. You actually can design your own spacecraft or your home base essentially. But the game itself is like all the other board games, unforgiving. But there's a lot of tables in here, and it's about the same size, I want to say, as Cyborg a bit. But it's the design is more simplistic. There are nothing crazy or disgusting to look at if you're not into that. But it's very dark, and the font is very rich and bright, and it's easy to read. And the pictures are every so often in the book, but there's still a lot of tables all over the place. And again, one thing, it's not negative, but it's one. If it's a pet peeve of yours, if you don't like how the tables are kind of randomly distributed amongst the book throughout the book, that might not you might not like that. But if you don't care, if you know where the pages are, if you can get printouts of the tables, that's fine too. But that just forewarning that the Borg books, Death in Space included, the tables are kind of just throughout the whole book, especially Morkborg. Um, Tables just kind of spread out in random pages. You have a lot of designs and amazing pictures by incredibly talented artists. But then there's a table randomly in the next page over. So that's not a dislike, that's just a characteristic of it. Okay, my last Rules-Lite book is Dungeon World. This is a very interesting combination of what looks like to be like a novel, an actual like book, um, but it's an RPG. This runs on the Powered by the Apocalypse system, like the defining Powered by the Apocalypse system, where you have a failure, partial success, and complete success. And it has a huge amount of page. There's 350 plus pages in this book. But the pages, the font size doesn't typically take up the whole page. There are a lot of empty space. There are some pictures. You have classes. You have inventory. You have all the usual. Creating a character doesn't take too long. The character sheets, actually, I take that back. Character creation is common, typical. You have character sheets of play kits. You have character sheets that are focused and unique on each class. There's really no universal character sheet because the ones they supply are play kits where you print out your class and it helps you to kind of create the class, create the character on the actual character sheet play kit. So that's one interesting, unique difference between from this compared to this pile here. So that's Dungeon World. Dungeon World, again, it runs on powered by the Apocalypse system, which was vaguely similar to Maze Rats, which doesn't have that. But I've done so much Maze Rats content on my channel that I modded it to house ruled it to blend the two together. So because I'm like, hey, 2d6 Maze Rats. Then I discovered Dungeon World, well, or World of Dungeons, which is the one page um, uh, copycat or inspired creation. Dungeon World is my favorite one-page RPG, which I talked about and used countless times before, as much as Maze Rats. But I took Maze Rats and I added the Powered by the Apocalypse system, so you have a range of success depending where you roll, because it worked seamlessly and it was much better in my opinion for Maze Rats. So, but no, there's times I still prefer to roll 2d6 and try to hit a threshold like 10. So depends on what time of day it is for me, to be honest. But that's my collection of RPG books. Please share your collection. What's your favorite? If you have any of these, I believe I probably missed a few. I don't think I have, but that's quite all right. I'm just happy to share some of my books. I do have a about waist height size shelf of growing classic RPG, actual heavier rules like AD&D 2E, 1E, the original D&D. I don't have any of the Beckme ones. I have the Rule Cyclopedia, which I talked about before, but I might show that collection to you guys in a later video when I have more time. But I hope you enjoyed this one, and as always, I'll see you next time.